Rogers, moving on to the preservation of, is it intellectual property?
Intellectual property.
Yeah.
IPR.
IPR. So
Yes.
how does somebody reserve the rights to a product that they are producing? Because in agroecology, we encourage innovation.
Okay.
I can come up with something that is, not used anywhere. And I want it to go to the market, like begin earning from it. But how do I ensure that wherever it's gonna be used, there is something that associates it with me, and hence I can earn from those rights?
Okay. So intellectual property. Well, intellectual property refers to the property that is from your intellect. So every time you sit down and invent or innovate, then the product can be protected by government. So intellectual property rights are those rights that are given to inventors or innovators in exchange for something. And the government does this to promote innovation because, as you know, economies are driven by innovation.
Yeah.
So in order to drive that muscle, they need to provide an incentive to the people that have the brains. So that's where the concept of intellectual property rights comes from.
Yeah.
And as a person in agriculture, you have about 3 intellectual property rights to be considered.
Yeah.
One is trademarks, the other is patents, the other is utility models. I am yet to learn of copyright. I don't know. The world keeps on changing. I am still learning. I am yet to learn of any copyright in agriculture.
Yeah.
But for those that I've mentioned, I use an example here. We have tomatoes from the farm, very fresh.
Yeah.
And so, assuming you've harvested your tomatoes, and you want to call them what?
Like
give it a name.
Any name, like
yes, you want to give your product a name. Let's call it Empty Kanyanya.
Okay.
Empty Kanyanya. So you finalize with the other process of registering the company, and your company is probably called Kanyanya because you're growing tomatoes only.
Yeah.
And let's first start with the name Kanyanya. You want to own that name exclusively. Now, first you went to your SB and reserved the name as a company. Empty Kanyanya.
Yeah.
Now you want to protect the brand. We talk about trademarks then.
Yeah.
A trademark is a mark that you use while trading.
Yeah.
And so when you see Coca-Cola or when you see KFC or Pepsi, those are trademarks.
Yeah.
And the way they look, the way they are designed, the colors, the font size, the font style, any picture in the background, any design that the graphics designer did while implementing your vision is what we call the trademark.
So just to stop you a little bit, you've given examples of the KFCs, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the company and the trademark? Because somebody may be wondering that, okay, I already did the registration of the company.
Yes.
So that's done. But now you're talking about trademarks. So how is that related? Or what's the difference?
Now, it would also be a good question to ask. For example, someone says, but I registered my company.
Yes.
Why do I need to get a license from KCC in order for me to, own a shop or something? Because by the way, when you go to KCCA or whichever town council, they'll ask for the business name registration, the certificate of incorporation of your company, all for your business in order for you to give you the license to operate as that business.
Yeah.
So yes, the first step shall always be reserving the name with the registrar of companies. The difference though is that trademarks are the marks that you're going to use while trading. You can have a business, your company can be called, let me give an example of a company, but it manufactures products that have different names. You know Harris International?
Yes.
What does it manufacture?
Juice.
But its juice is not called Harris.
Ah.
Exactly. So Harris International registered a company called Harris, and it's an international company.
Yeah.
And that company manufactures juice, energy drinks, maybe water. And so in their objectives as the company, they put maybe manufacturing of soft drinks.
Yeah.
Now, they're not going to only manufacture one soft drink in their entire lifetime. They're going to manufacture so many of them, depending on how innovative they are.
Yeah.
Now, which means that every soft drink they're going to manufacture will be given a name, a brand name.
Yeah.
And it is that brand name that we consider while registering the trademark, because it is going to become the mark you use while trading. The same way you have Coca-Cola International,
yes,
but it manufactures Fanta,
yes,
it manufactures so many other drinks, energy drinks and all.
Yeah.
But the company name is Coca-Cola. So yes, the company name can be reserved. It's the one that you use as a company.
Yeah.
But you have these brands that you keep using all around.
Yeah.
Those brands are the ones that you're going to register as the trademarks. Unless you're going to manufacture one product and use it as your trademark, it's also okay.
Yeah.
But for purposes of understanding, consider a company that has, called Harris, but it has so many energy drinks and soft drinks, and each having its own brand name that now becomes the trademark.
Yeah, so like how at MT Agroeco Farm we got all the different plants in the forest, like the medicinal ones, the fruit trees, but also we have a section for perennial crops where we have coffee, we have bananas, we have veggies on one side, we have food crops on the other. So meaning all those can be brought out independently, and that could represent the brand name.
They could have different products.
Yes.
And each product will be given a brand.
Yeah.
And so, which means that, purpose of brands is to distinguish you from other people doing the same thing. Soft drinks have so many of them, but how do I know that when I want to drink the same soft drink, I'll go and look for that brand?
Yeah.
So it becomes, just as a trademark, as a brand.
Okay.
Now, trademarks are territorial. You must have that trademark registered in that particular country.
Yeah.
For example, you register your, how is it called? That bitter drink they drink, Kazire. You register your Kazire in Uganda. So Kazire is a trademark in Uganda, assuming they registered it actually. Now, once it has been registered as a trademark in Uganda, you can't claim Kazire to be a trademark in South Africa unless you actually went to the government of South Africa and you registered Kazire as a trademark.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to use the example of Kenya, but I'll say that because of the future of the East African integration, the regional integrations, East African community and all, we might have economic integration, which may make it easier to register one product in one East African country and have it recognized in the others in the East African community. Yeah. So I'll use an example of a country in another region, like South Africa. Yeah. So if you are Coca-Cola and you want your brand, your trademark, to be enforced in a country like maybe Mauritius, you need to have it registered in that particular country. There is an exception though, and that is unless your trademark, you have been running international ads and that advertisement has actually been running worldwide, so every person has actually seen. Yeah. But it's rare to have, unless you're watching maybe like Super Sport and you have an American brand or a very local brand somewhere in the world, feature on that television channel. It's rare. It's those big companies that target international audience that put in as much money to do that. But as a person in agriculture, starting small, you want to start registering in Uganda, and when you grow, you register in Kenya, your trademark, continue to all East African countries, then you move to other regions, and then you can move to other continents. Yes, so trademarks are territorial. Trademarks have a time limit. Your trademark will be registered for 7 years, and after 7 years you're going to have to renew it. It's renewal.
Okay, who does this? URSP still?
Yes, so throughout this whole video I'm going to talk about URSP. URSP does the registration of trademarks and a department called the Uganda Intellectual Property Department, Registrar of Intellectual Properties. They register that and they're responsible for enforcement of that. So yes, we also have treaties, but that's, I don't know, it's not relevant when you talk about those treaties, the international treaties that govern intellectual property and all, and the organizations that help inventors. But for now, just know that at the base of it, the trademarks are territorial, and trademarks can be registered for only 7 years in Uganda. Because in some countries it could be longer, depending on the treaties and the laws. But according to our Ugandan laws, it is 7 years, renewable afterwards.
Okay, so dear viewer, I hope that is clear to you. If at all you are making something that you feel should be attached to you, there is a product that I use here on the farm. Like I mentioned, what we are planting in terms of the pesticidal plants, medicinal plants, they are still at the stage where we can't use them, you know. So for managing of fungal infections in our coffee up there in the perennial section, and also in our veggies, we've been using a product by, I think it's a company called Afard.
Okay.
Yeah, a very awesome product actually, which has worked for us. So I don't know if at all, for example, you guys of Afard have, you know, reserved that trademark for it to be only linked to you guys. So that's just one example. And I know there are lots of other innovators in agroecology who are, you know, coming up with awesome products. So what Rogers is saying today is you need to follow these steps to ensure that you have that particular product and hence that trademark associated to you.
Yeah.
So you say there is another form of intellectual property,
yes,
right, besides trademark?
Yes. And so these intellectual property rights help you to squeeze as much money as you can from every intellect that you use.
Yeah.
So you've come up with a name and how it's going to look like. And so you've registered it as a trademark. So you have exclusive ownership over that particular trademark. You use it the way you want, when you want, and wherever you want. Now, the other intellectual property right is patents. I think you've heard of that before. Most people have heard of that before.
Yeah.
What's a patent? Now, our example of Kanyanya, we have our tomatoes from the farm. We have, you know, added value to them. What have we done? We are manufacturing something, like how someone woke up one morning and invented ketchup. Now, the whole concept of ketchup is a little bit complicated because there's a product they use in ketchup that you don't find in normal tomato sauce. That's why people say, I want ketchup, not tomato sauce.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of tomatoes they use that are not these normal tomatoes.
Yeah.
And so patents are those exclusive rights given to people that invent something that is new, and that thing has never been heard of, but they have come up with it because they have invented it using their brains and no one has seen it before. That's a patent. The patent is so strict that whatever you're inventing must be actually an invention, like something that is not already in existence. Like you can't invent tomato sauce.
Yeah.
It's already there. You can't invent mango fruit jam.
Yeah.
As long as you can go to YouTube and how to produce this, and it is there, chances are high that you cannot patent that.
Yeah.
Like there's a case of someone who, you know, penicillin?
Yes.
There's a patent for penicillin. But penicillin was not new, like people already using penicillin to cure diseases.
Yeah.
Okay? But someone got a patent, not of the product, but of the process of making the product that had never been heard of before.
Yeah.
It's getting complicated here, but okay. Now, let me start with the easy examples. Do you know who invented the first telephone?
Not really.
Graham Bell.
Okay.
He got the patent for a telephone because it was the first usable model of a telephone. No one had ever heard of it before.
Yeah.
You know who invented the first combustion engine, internal combustion engine? Well, you know, it's diesel, actually.
Ah,
yes,
interesting.
our diesel.
Yeah.
Was the person that invented the diesel engine. And there's GPS. Someone invented GPS. You have the first light bulb by Thomas Edison.
Yes.
And do you know, there's that thing that records called the panogram. invented by the same guy, Thomas Edison. And I'm talking about things that no one had ever thought of before. Like no one ever thought that you could actually record sound and play it back until Thomas Edison invented it. No one ever thought that, well, you can call someone who is like very far and have them talk to you from here. So those are inventions that the whole world looked at and said, man, how did that guy come up? Like the standard for intellectual property patents is that thing that you have invented must not be ordinary to a person in the same profession. You understand? Like you're into agriculture, but you invent something that a normal farmer cannot invent. And so if I can make TS, tomato sauce, unless I can come up with a new form of tomatoes that can produce a new form of tomato sauce, and I name that tomato sauce ketchup. All unless, you see how we have these medicinal plants here, and you say that this thing is very bitter, muluruza, that when you mix the potion and drink it, it's so bitter. And in my head I'm thinking, it's so bitter that even the disease fears it and runs away. Oh my God, that's so bitter. So imagine you come up with a way of making a cure for a disease that works like electricity. Like when someone drinks it, they will shiver in 1 second and the disease will come out of them. But to think about it, someone actually invented that. Someone invented kind of medicine that when you drink it, it generates fever in your blood, and when the temperature rises, because fever actually comes with temperature rising, the malaria would die, though it killed so many people. But that's another patent there. Yes, but the standard for a patent is that it must be really new. Novelty, we call it novelty. It must be new. And patents are protected for 20 years, renewable. So when you invent something, like the Apple patent, Apple got a patent to manufacture their phones and whatever. So 20 years, after 20 years you can renew it. And also patents are territorial. When you invent something, it's in that territory, like that. So yes.
So in other words, trademarks work for things that are not new. Like you've come up with an innovation, but it's not really new.
Well, think of it like this. I didn't talk about things that cannot be given trademarks, did I?
No.
I didn't. Now, there are some trademarks you cannot get. Like, you can't get a trademark of the word copyright. You can't get a trademark of the word trademark. You can't get a trademark of the word UPDF. You can't get a trademark for using AME, AME designs. You can't get a trademark for using something that, like the national emblem for Uganda. There are some things that cannot be trademarked. However, also at the initial level of registering your company, you cannot be given, your name cannot be given to you. Like the application for reservation of that name cannot be accepted if probably you're using a political party, or you're using, already like Crested Crane or something like that. So yes, the whole concept of trademarks is that you've come up with something that is new. But you have invented, like how we come up with Adidas. It's a word. But previously you had not heard of it before. But let me use a normal example. You know what a Google is?
A Google? Not really.
Like you know how you have like a billion, which is 10 to power something, and you have 1,000, which is 10 to power something. A Google is, I think, like 10 to power 100 or 1,000. It's called a Google. But the spelling is different. It's like G-O-O-G-O-L. It's a Google. Now, the person that invented Google intentionally misspelled the word Google to come up with Google that he used. And so, because of the way they thought, the intellect they put in to get an already existing word and play about with it, and have it to mean something, but not spelled that way. Because we're talking about data that is stored in billions and billions and billions. Okay, so yes, trademarks, you must also invent something. The color. There's a particular kind of intellect you put in for you to be given that particular trademark. The color, the font size, the font style, the design, the face, and all.
So should we say that trademarks are more towards the designing?
Yes.
Okay.
Brilliant. Trademarks are in relation to the appearance.
Okay, okay. And then patents are
Contents.
content, products, or
So you can patent,
processes.
yes. For example, like I give an example, but it's not patents, it's in another field. Like if you're an IT guy and you come up with some software, let's say SafeBorder, you come up with the app, you can get copyright of that particular code, the code that you use to make that thing run.
Yeah.
If you're an artist and you record a song, you get copyright of the content of the song, even if the words you're using are not new.
Yeah.
But how you have, you know, how much art you've put in to make it sound the way it sounds, to make it rhyme, that's what you get copyright for.
Okay, so in agroecology, I can get a patent for a product I produce on the farm. Okay, let's say any new thing, of course.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned,
New.
it should be new.
Totally new.
So if I come up with something very new, maybe a bioherbicide, I know this is not new because I was reading, research papers that people already
Doing that.
yeah, like there is research around bioherbicides, though it hasn't been extensively rolled out. But I'm just, giving an example. If at all, for example, I invent a bioherbicide, because it's one of the challenges that we have in agroecology, managing weeds. Because in the synthetic, in the conventional farming, someone will just get a 2,4-D, spray in the garden, all the weeds are dead. In agroecology, we don't use those. So we have to, manually remove the weeds. Now, like how you see these piles here in the forest, like we are manually removing them, or we are doing mulching to suppress the weeds. So if I come up with a product, probably from the plants available, which can help to fight the weeds, so I could patent that. Is it? Or
yes, so you cannot. Probably because what you're doing has already been done by people, like in so many ways.
Okay.
But that will take us to the next bit, which is called utility models.
Okay.
For now, patents. Like, it's for those people that put in time. Like, do you know how Thomas Edison came up with that saying of, I found out, I didn't fail, but I just found 999 times of not manufacturing or making a light bulb.
Yeah.
Do you know what it means to fail that much? That you come up with a product that the world has not seen before. Like, think of people using candles, and then now just with, like, press a switch, and it will give you light.
So in other words, patents should be for something that is new, doing something that is not being done by anything else on the planet. Okay.
Yes, something that has, like, think of a person that invented plastic.
Yeah.
Or there's this thing called graphene.
Yeah.
So it's really, like, you must really have a brain. You must put in time.
Everybody has a brain.
Okay, you must use your brain.
You must innovate. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's there's a class of people that will look for something, look at a problem, think over it thousands of times, and then come up with a solution that you'd be like, oh, I did not know that this normal garbage can make electricity.
Yeah.
So it's for that kind of intellectual property that, it's really intellectual property.
Yeah. And that's also registered with URSP, or?
Yes. Patents are registered with URSP. You put in your application for a patent. This is how patents work. They give you exclusive ownership to produce, to sell, and to assign rights to produce and sell to other people. So, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So you are Uganda Batteries Limited.
Yeah.
And assuming you have invented a battery.
Yeah.
Which is not true, by the way.
Yeah.
But assuming you've invented it, you have the right to sell those batteries. You have a right to distribute those batteries, or to give another person distributorship. You have a right to remanufacture as many batteries as you want. And if any person does that without you giving them the right, for example, you find a person manufacturing the same batteries, but without your permission, you can sue them.
Yeah.
The same way, I find you singing my song without my permission, I could sue you because I have copyright in the song.
Yeah.
Something for books, I find you republishing my book without my permission, I could sue you.
Yeah.
Yes, so you have that right to produce massively,
Yeah.
to distribute, and to do whatever you want with that product for a particular amount of time, which in Uganda is 20 years for a patent, in exchange for that information. Yeah. You have to give a detailed account of how that product is manufactured and how it works. Yeah. And this involves you explain to the government how another person can manufacture it. So those details are kept safely with government. So that after 20 years, if you don't renew, that information goes into what we call public domain. So any person can access it. Yeah. Like the same way now you want to manufacture something and you go to YouTube and find that information. So it goes into public domain. Yeah. And why? Because the government protects you for 20 years, so that after 20 years, if you don't renew, other people can do the same thing, and the government can tax them to make more money. So it drives the economic engine.
So now things like KFC, Captain Sanders has the patent to that recipe. So like he's already dead.
But the
company is still running.
Yes.
So the company still manufactures, it has the patent to the procedure they use, the recipe, in that wherever you go in the world, you're gonna find it testing the same way.
Same thing for Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen the recipe of Coca-Cola available?
No.
Why? Because they patented that and they renewed.
Yeah.
Now, for KFC, the thing is that KFC, McDonald's may not be able to, come to Uganda physically, but they give what we call franchises.
Okay.
And a franchise is another way that people benefit from these intellectual property rights. Like, I give you, because as an intellectual property owner, you may not be able to distribute. Yeah. So you give distributorship rights. Yeah. But the people that you've given the right to distribute your property must pay you back in terms of royalties.
Yes.
You give people like KFC. Someone comes to you and says, "Yo, have you been to Uganda?" No. I want to start doing what you're doing here in Uganda. Yeah. Like what they did for McDonald's in the United States.
Yes.
So you say, "Okay, I'll give you the recipe. I'll allow you to use my trademark. I will give you access to any information on the following conditions. You're going to give me money. Yeah. You do it the exact way I want it in the US. Yeah. Like it is in the US. Yeah. And you must make sure to adhere to each and every standard so that we do not have KFC in Africa and KFC in Europe that one is more, fake than the other. These people have poor hygiene. Yeah. These people have, raw chicken, half-cooked chicken, whatever. Yeah. So yes, it's called a franchise. Yeah. And that's one of the benefits of having a patent. Yeah. You can get money from giving other people rights to do what came from your brain.
Yeah. Do you relate that to I think there was an example, I don't know if it was last year in Kenya, where the nationals of Kenya were complaining about KFC not using their Irish potato. So it could import Irish potatoes from I don't know which country, but import, bring to Kenya to make those fries.
Yes, because that's one of the terms that are laid out in the franchise agreement. That the head that was given the right to come and do that business in Kenya signed an agreement that said the potatoes must come from the US because they're the only potatoes we trust that will give us that length of the chips. Yeah. And your potatoes in Kenya are this size, so they'll give you a smaller. And you do not want to dilute our brand. Yeah. So for us to be able to do that, you need to do as we said.
Interesting. So dear viewers, I hope you are following to this point. I hope you have a book and a pen. I didn't mention this at the start, but it's a lot of knowledge flowing, which I feel that you need to note down. Like I mentioned, Roger's number is moving on the screen. You can contact him. His email is also there. It's a lot of content. Like, for example, I'm an agriculturalist. These are things that I'm not so much interested in. Of course, I want to know high level, but I don't want to go deep into them. So I need him as a lawyer to guide me in that field. So you too are an agroecologist. You need a lawyer. Rogers is available to help you out such that you know about trademarks like we've been speaking, the patents. You never know, probably you're coming up with something new on the planet and you don't know how best to earn from it. he's here to help you with that. So Rogers, the other intellectual property rights,
Yes,
utility models.
utility models.
Yeah.
They are sometimes called minor patents
Mhm.
or minor innovations,
Mhm.
lesser inventions.
Mhm.
What is the same as a patent? The difference is that a utility model is like without the aspect of novelty. You're not doing something new.
Mhm.
Rather, you're modifying the existing thing.
Mhm.
Let me just give an example. You know noodles?
Yes.
Someone invented what they call cup noodles.
Okay.
Like got noodles,
Mhm.
put them in a cup,
Mhm.
and sealed it.
Mhm.
And because they are dried, you know noodles are very dry.
Yeah.
So he said, well, when you buy this product, take it home, boil water, just pour that hot water in the cup and cover again.
Yeah.
After 30 seconds,
Yeah.
open and eat.
Yeah.
So nothing was new.
Mm.
The noodles already existed,
Mhm.
the cups already existed.
Mhm.
But just how he thought about putting this in a cup, and you just have to fill the required amount of water,
Mm.
and you eat the same thing, because noodles are like what you eat for spaghetti. You have to cook it first.
Yeah.
And in China and Japan, noodles are like they cook them literally.
Yeah.
And so what if you want someone to eat Chinese noodles in Uganda, but you cannot import them because they are wet. They cannot be preserved properly. So someone dried them and put them in a cup, just pour water. Or like a friend that I don't know knew what they were doing, but they talked about it. The ones that got mangoes and dried them and sold them as crisps.
Yeah.
So that when you put it on your tongue, because of the saliva in your mouth, it melts and tastes like a real mango.
Yeah.
Could be a minor invention.
Yeah.
They could get a utility model
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Utility models last for between 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And utility models, the years depend on where you register from.
Mm.
You register in Uganda, you have 7 years. But if you use Aripo utility models are like 10 years. But Aripo is like a treaty. Let's not get there.
Yeah.
Now, that's for utility models.
Yeah.
What other examples of utility models are there? You could think of someone that invented cleaning of bottles. There's a machine that cleans bottles. There's a machine that sorts fruits. Or there are quite many. I was reading some time back about the one of IUIU, Islamic University in Uganda. They got a utility model for a system that could be used to detect and counter infectious diseases. And it's a very simple gadget like this size, and it has like 3 buttons. One is green, or one is yellow, one is green, one is red. So every time a person comes to the hospital, they look at him, they assess, they press one of the buttons. And the button will dictate exactly how they're going to handle that patient. If it's red, that's an extreme case of COVID.
Yeah.
We just do this. If it's green, they're okay. If it's yellow, they're really okay.
So that machine is for COVID
and Ebola.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Wow, great content. Today that Rogers has shared with us. I remind you, he has a lot more to share. And like we said at the start of these podcasts, we want to ensure that as we produce food in our farms, we earn a profit. You won't earn a profit if at all you're not abiding by the law. You wouldn't want to come up with something, put it out there as though you have invented it, yet somebody else is in Nakasongola doing something
exactly
similar.
that.
So you don't want that. Or you don't want to invent something and just, put it out there without earning from it.
For example, there's a gentleman called, his name was Bairo.
Okay.
Does the name sound familiar?
Bailo, the pen.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
The first person to invent the ballpoint pen.
Okay.
That person did not benefit from his intellect because he manufactured it and put it out for the public to use, and they got the information to an extent that he didn't know. I think he didn't know about patents or something.
Yeah.
So he never benefited.
Yeah.
That's why they're called Bairo, because of Bairo.
Interesting. You don't want to be Bailo. Please, contact Rogers for more information. But what we wanted today in this, second part of the legal considerations for you an agroecologist was to understand, after buying your land, after knowing that the interest is legitimate, what you need to take on as the next step with regards to registering your company or business, knowing the products that you have on the farm and how you can earn from them, with regards to trademarks, patents, and utility models.
Yes.
So, any other thing you want to add on what we've shared today? Something that the viewers need to keep at the back of their minds concerning the companies, company registration and intellectual property.
Okay, maybe there are about 3 things that are not ordinarily talked about, but they're important. Like for companies, there is something called NGOs. Now, NGOs are like non-government organizations, of course.
Yeah.
And they are non-profit. They
Yeah.
don't make profit.
Yeah.
But they could be doing things to benefit the community. And you could be in agriculture, but you're doing something to maybe benefit the ladies, the women, like maybe women in agriculture.
Yeah.
So it's not something you do a farm and all. You want to register it as an NGO. That is also a consideration.
Okay.
There are trusts. Like
what of community-based organizations? Because I think I know a number of guys who have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also another consideration of community-based organizations. So their registration is a bit different.
Okay.
But yeah, there are also organizations that can also, it's also a model you can look at.
Yeah.
You can also look at trusts. What's a trust? Trusts are like when you see a church, churches own land, but churches are not necessarily companies, neither are they NGOs. They are trusts. And trusts are another other form of, vehicle, but they are registered a different way.
Yeah.
Like for trusts, they're registered with Ministry of Lands, and you find a church, for example, maybe like Kampala Archdiocese, it's called Registered Trustees of Kampala Archdiocese, Registered Trustees of Chindamchana Archdiocese.
Yeah.
That's what Catholics do. That's what some churches do. They register them as trusts.
Yeah.
And you're basically holding property and assets in trust for other people. Yes, that's also another thing.
Okay.
But I can't explain detail for now because it's a bit lengthy, and you can always just reach out.
Yeah.
The other consideration is things have changed a little bit, and there are policies that are being passed to protect the agriculturalists and people in farming. For example, because of cattle rustling, the government came up with something like you just can't transport cattle without a license.
Yes.
You just can't. And if they found you, you'd probably face a fine.
Yeah.
You just can't transport because you have your forest. You just can't cut it.
Yes.
And sell the timber anywhere.
Yeah.
You find no more stops like stop forestry, wood, whatever. They'll always check what you have in your container at the back for trucks. So you need to look out for those particular licenses that you need to get if you're into that particular industry in agriculture.
Yeah.
You don't just transport animals.
Yeah.
You don't just sell animals.
Yeah.
In forestry, you don't just cut trees, you don't just plant trees.
Yeah.
You need a license. You need a license to cut them down, even if they are in your land.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't also just grow forests anywhere. There are gazetted places in Uganda where you grow forests.
Yeah.
For example, that area from Bujuko onwards. Yes, they do plant forests there, and it's not by accident, by the way. It's designated by government for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are others, but just please always get a lawyer, an accountant, a doctor, and another relevant professional in your circle. It will help you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Rogers. Thank you, viewers. If you've not yet subscribed to our channel, what are you doing, man? You are consuming lots of knowledge from this channel. Please subscribe such that you are notified each and every time when we release a video, because the aim of MT Agroecology is to give you informative insights which you're not going to find anywhere else. You're not going to find this anywhere else, and you're not going to find people speaking to you who are qualified to do so. Speaking about agroecology, I got the qualifications in the field. I'm practicing it, so I'm speaking from experience. And also, I read a lot. Bring a lawyer on board. He has the books. He has the experience. He's qualified. So when you look around, it's going to be hard for you to find a channel that is bringing you such authentic information. So I ask you to subscribe such that you learn And whenever you're coming for these, episodes, please have a book and a paper. Sorry, a book and a pen, because you are gonna learn and you're gonna need to know those things down. And in case you need more information, Rogers, the email is going, down on the screen. The number is there. You can reach out. You can reach out to us on MT Agroeco Farm. We can, give you talks about many of these things that we're talking about, such that we all together can grow food in ways that are sustainable. So, until next time, keep safe. May the good Lord bless you.